Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the Nashville movement, a coalition for racial and economic justice in Tennessee. And we have with us to talk about the Nashville movement, Mr. Kieth Caldwell, who is one of the members of the Nashville movement, as well as Mrs. Catalina Neito, also a member of the coalition concerned about immigrants and refugees in the state of Tennessee. And of course, both of them will give us some additional information about these specific organizations. And of course, Mr. Caldwell and Mr. Neito, let me welcome both of you to the show this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Haney.
And to tell both of you how delighted we are to have you here, and especially to give us an opportunity to present to the Nashville community this new coalition that you've formed, that has been formed, Mr. Caldwell, dealing with social and economic justice for those who are on the outside in a real sense of society. Let's start off, Mr. Caldwell, by having you to give us some information about your background, your education, and of course, Mrs. Neito will give us some additional information in reference to her background and education, and then we'll get into some specifics in reference to the movements that, the aspects of the movements that the two of you represent.
Okay. On my background, I'm born and raised right here in Nashville. Grew up in public school system. I first came into community organizing was when I worked at for Metro, and we got the labor union was attempting to come into Metro housing, and so we were able to help bring SEIU into Metro housing. We saw the immediate effects of when we signed a memorandum of understanding. We got like $3 on the hour just upon signing that. And that's when I really began to see the real power in collective bargaining in union terms, but coming together to put our voices together. After that, I worked with an African-American group called Ad Hoc Committee for Equity. We were working on the disparities in No Child Left Behind and how it was underfunded. So Reverend Henry Blaze was actually the chair of that. And so as we were working on that, our governor gutted TennCare and cut about 235,000 of the sickest and most vulnerable Tennesseans from that role. We went to an organization, the Nashville Peace and Justice Center, and worked with them about doing a sit-in to really demonstrate how we were opposed to these cuts from a governor who had stated that he had run on the platform that he could restore TennCare and just to gut it. And so that sit-in lasted 77 days, longest sit-in in U.S. history in a government facility. And we went on to, continue to work for the people that, with Bridges to Care and that type of thing. I was later employed with the Nashville Peace and Justice Center, became the director of that organization, and in August of '07, I launched out to create an African-American-led organization to really deal with the issues that most adversely impacted our communities. I did that with Dr. Sekou Franklin. He teaches political science at MTSU. And so he and I began to develop this organization. And our first event was the Gina 6. We organized around that with another organizer, Deirdre Reed, and the Village Church, Reverend Stevens, and we wound up taking 10 buses down to Gina, Louisiana, and with TSU was just doing a tremendous job, and Fisk, and we brought in Reverend James Lawson to come and do some civil disobedience trainings at Fisk, so that the students would be indoctrinated, understand what this was about.
Very good. And of course, Mrs. Neito, about your background and how you became involved in this over the last minute or so that we have here.
Yeah, well, I'm an immigrant from Bogota, Colombia. I came here 7 years ago after going through some really hard times back in my country because economic recession and my parents not being able to have a job. And I lived in Chicago for those 7 years. I went to school there and graduated from Northeastern Illinois University with a communications and sociology degree. So many of these things affect me personally and have affected my family. So that's how I got involved first in trying to make sure that all students can get an education, and later on with the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, of which now I'm the public awareness coordinator. Tennessee has a shorter history of immigration, and there's been definitely a negative reaction to these changes in the community. So I'm working hard to advocate for the immigrant community and a welcoming community.
Very good. And so both of you have been deeply involved in the real sense in terms of social activity and social action. Of course, when we come back during our second segment, we'll give you an opportunity to talk about the various organizations that you represent. Of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you, and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Mr. Kieth Caldwell and Ms. Catalina Neito, both members of an organization that is called the Nashville Movement, an organization that is concerned with poverty and people who have been shut out of society. And of course, that, Mr. Caldwell, that might not be the official name for the organization, but I'm sure that that will sort of capture what the two of you try to represent here today. Let's have you, Mr. Caldwell, to continue our conversation in reference to bringing this organization together and what you wish to achieve. And then, of course, Ms. Neito will give us some additional information.
Okay, we have 4 organizations that this coalition is comprised of. Is the Nashville Homeless Power Project, Tennessee Jobs with Justice, Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, and the Urban Epicenters, the organization that we've created. So we talked to the original founders of the Nashville movement, Brother Kwame Lillard, Matthew Walker, Reverend Jim Lawson, about, you know, taking on this name and this to be a continuation of what really began in Nashville and was really just ignited the nation with the sit-ins and things. And we understand that people often draw a false separation between moral justice and economic justice. And one cannot be fully realized until they both are realized. So we're working with the lowest paid workers, people, as you stated, that's been kicked to the margins of society, to help for that voice to be heard.
Now, you mentioned earlier, Ms. Neito, that you were concerned with the immigrant and refugee population. Give us some idea in terms of some of the challenges faced by some of these individuals.
Well, right now there's about 65 bills in the legislature that have been proposed, and many of these bills would affect not only the lives of immigrants but of many communities, especially minorities, poor people, and those that are usually underrepresented. Many of these bills would deny public services to people that don't have documents, and the truth is the ones that are affected are not only undocumented people, but also poor people that are less likely to have their documents, or citizen children that maybe their parents won't take them to receive some of those services. And then we also have others that would make employers become almost like immigration agents and put a burden on them, which shouldn't be